Hello, everyone. This is Renee Rentmeester. I'm the creator and executive producer of the Cooking Without Looking TV show and podcast. And today we have Chad Bouton with us. Chad, welcome.
Hi, it's so good to be on. I'm happy that we can make this happen after the troubles we had last week trying to record. So I'm very happy that I could be on today.
Well, that's okay. Like I said to you, I used to have a sign on my desk at CBS that said, it's only TV. No one's going to die today. Technology is quirky and so are people. So I just take it and roll with it.
Yeah, especially with today's environment, so much has become remote nowadays. So we kind of are at the whims of technology more so than we used to be, probably.
Exactly. Well, Chad, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so hello everybody. My name is Chad Bouton. I am the host of the disability podcast Hindsight is 20/200. A little bit of a selfish plug. It's on Anchor, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. I am the host of the podcast. I have published a couple of articles on accessibility when it comes to video games. And I'm just an advocate. I just like to use the experiences that I have gone through because of my vision loss, and just try and help people the best I can. And I also think the best way we can do that is to start conversations. So I talk to a lot of advocates, entrepreneurs, and organizations and companies that are doing some good stuff when it comes to disability. And just hopefully I can expose more and more people that become my audience to disability, because I think far often kind of the problem that we see is it's not so much a lack of empathy or sympathy. It's just they haven't been educated, so they don't know what they don't know. So it's my hope that I can kind of push the needle and make more people educated about the world of disability.
Well, and you do a wonderful job, Chad. Tell us a little bit about your blindness.
Yes. So when I was 11 years old, I was diagnosed with autosomal recessive retinitis pigmentosa. My parents knew from a very young age that there was something wrong with my vision. My mom will always tell stories of how when I was a baby, when she would read like picture books to me, she would have to hold the book right up in my face because I would just reach for the book because I couldn't see it when she would just hold it in front of me. So my parents knew from a very young age there was something wrong with my vision. So we weren't able to get a true diagnosis until I was 11 years old. So both my sister and I actually both have autosomal recessive retinitis pigmentosa. So we have both progressively been losing our vision. I have some usable vision, but it's not a lot. Honestly, the way I describe my vision to people so it's easy for them to understand is like, just imagine that you're looking through a straw. That is all I can see on a daily basis. And even though I have my vision what's directly in front of me, it's become very blurry because my RP has progressed to the point where cataracts have formed in both my eyes. So I can see in front of me, but there's a lot of days where it's really blurry.
Yeah, and you have glasses on, so I bet a lot of people don't even realize that you have vision loss.
No, I was on Twitter the other day, and someone posted visually impaired myth 101. Not all blind people wear dark sunglasses or use a white cane. And I'm just like, this is the biggest myth that I've heard. It's just like, and I always joke and tell people like, I didn't know disability had a dress code.
Right.
I didn't know that my vision loss made it to where I have to look and act a certain way. And there have been many moments in my life growing up where I've had peers in the education system think I was faking my disability to just get an advantage and in my schooling. And I've had as much as someone seeing my mom and I walk into like a Walgreens where I'm using her for guided sight, and we come back to a note on the front of our car and telling my mom she should be ashamed that she's having her son fake a disability so she can get parking. So yeah, I mean, an invisible disability, it can be very frustrating and exhausting because a lot of times people they really do think you're faking, and that's like the thing that upsets me the most is like having someone tell me that you're faking or I don't believe you, when I know for a fact that they were just in my body for 10 seconds, they would absolutely hate, having what I have to go through.
People fake having money. They don't fake having a disability.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll see on TV where they'll have a show with they're supposed to have a blind person on, quote unquote. And then that person's got dark glasses, a cane, and a guide dog. And it's like, okay, I think you got all of them covered, just which one is that person using?
Yeah, there's a lot of tropes, to be honest. I was talking about this with one of my guests on the podcast yesterday. It's like in the media, it's either like we are superheroes, we have some supernatural power, or it's the classic, oh, well, they overcame this hurdle and they're better for it because they realize that just because they have a disability doesn't make them a lesser person than anybody else. It's just like, why do we have to regurgitate the same sappy, cliched story over and over?
I know.
That's not disability in the real world.
I know. And, I don't know what you think about the word inspiration. I've grown not to really use them anymore because we all have whatever challenges. And you're right. It's either like one or the other. You're like superhuman and you can hear things that other people can't hear. And you know things that other people don't know. What's the craziest myth that you've come upon besides what you just said? Something that's sort of funny.
I mean, that superhero one is funny. I think a lot of people don't understand a lot of the assistive technology that disabled people use to go through their daily lives, and be able to be productive, because I am so productive because of the technology that I use. And I remember I was on YouTube and I left a comment, and someone was saying something about visual impairment, and I was kind of trying to like dispel, because they said something wrong, and I was like, whoa, hold on, you've not done the right research here. And then someone literally responded, he's like, no offense, but if you're legally blind, how are you typing your comment right now? And I'm like, and before I could say anything, someone in the comments just like, dude, do you not know that there's screen readers in the world? And I'm like, all right, here we go. So I tell them, like, well, there's voiceover, there's stuff like Jaws and Zoom Text Fusion, all these other amazing stuff. And then literally his follow-up question to that, the same person's like, so are you like Daredevil? Do you like have superpowers? Like you're hearing, like you can use it to like echolocation stuff? And I'm just like, no, that's not real. People think that just because we can't see, or maybe if even we can't hear or talk, they think, oh, well, that means that all your other senses are superpowers because you've lost one. It's like, no, the reality is that we make them better over time by using them more. We train that sense to become better and stronger than other people because, normal people don't use their vision as much as, say, a visually impaired person. We listen so much more because audio is so accessible to us. So that's definitely a myth I have run into as well. It's just, oh, so are you like Daredevil? I'm like, no, that's not real.
Well, what's funny is I always tell people I've gotten my best driving instructions from totally blind people. Like one of the people on our show, I used to drive her around. I used to drive her to the show. She's totally blind, made the best bread, the prettiest bread you've ever seen, just nice. And she'll go, okay, well, there was the bump back there. So that means we're at Sunrise Boulevard. You gotta make a right. Okay, and then you're driving down the road. Okay, well, she heard something. She goes, that's, like some sort of music from some store or something. Then you make a left, get in your left lane. The most perfect, down to the inch instructions, driving instructions that I've ever received from anybody.
Yeah, we learned those patterns. Like we not only audio cues, but like haptic feedback. So like things we can physically feel. Like I for instance, like I always know when I'm pulling into my neighborhood because we have two really big speed bumps. So the second I feel the first one, I'm like, okay, there should be a second. Okay, there's this, like, all right, we're in my neighborhood. So it's like, like we look for those patterns. And I'm definitely not as good as your friend is, but I have noticed throughout my life that I do pick up on those things as well.
Well, you pay attention, and somebody when I first started doing this described to me that the reason a person who's blind can do this even better because there's one sense off. And they
Mhm.
described to me like, okay, um, sometimes you hear a commercial on TV and you don't really understand what they say. Well, take one of your senses off, close your eyes, and next time you hear it, you
Mhm.
will understand what that word was. And I try it all the time, and it's like, yeah, you remove one sense, it's like you don't have all these things coming in at you at once.
Yeah, like that's how I am with music. It's like I have such a deep appreciation for music, and I'm like to the point where I can like just listen and like oh, I know this is Blue October or this is Avenged Sevenfold just for like the opening like strum of the guitar. It's like there's certain things like that, like when you like strip away one sense, and I found this definitely when it comes to me using my hearing, as you know, I think I'm a better listener and I can pick up on things a lot better than most people because I've just learned to listen better than most
True.
people.
Well, do you have a better sense of people's character as well?
Mm. I would like to think I do.
Well, you know what? Another myth is, I think when we think of blindness on people, we always think of older people.
uh,
But what are you like? Well, you're like 29, Chad?
yeah, so yeah, I'll be 30 next year. And that is something growing up that you hear a lot. It's like, oh, well, you don't look blind. And it's like, well, what were you expecting? Were you expecting like like you said, I don't know how. Maybe it's because of how media has portrayed them, and how marketing has been used in the past several decades. But it's just like, why is it when the second we think about disability or blind people or paralyzed people, do we automatically go to, oh, well, they're old and
Right.
they can't be it if they're young? It's like, where does that age discrepancy when it comes to disability become? Because it's like, if you live long enough, you will become in some way disabled. I mean, really,
Pieces of you.
it's true. I mean, like that's the thing about with vision. Like if you live long enough, I mean, you might not go completely blind, but you're not going to be able to see as great as you did when you were a young person. Like my dad's just now starting to use glasses in his 50s, but that's because his vision's gone bad. And you get slower as you get older. So it's just like everybody loses, you know, the ability to do something if they live long enough.
Right. But then on the other hand, also, there are ways of keeping in not in shape. I don't want to
Mhm.
say that. I don't like to fall into that. But you just keep doing things,
Mhm.
and you're not affected as much. But
Mhm.
there are certain things like like blindness that
Mhm.
happen,
Yeah.
and that just happens.
Yeah, and it can come for anybody. It's like I think that's the important thing. It's just like there's so many people that lose their vision because of an accident. And you can't plan for that. It'll
Right.
happen. Or I've talked to many people where like they went in for a surgery and then after they healed up, their vision's gone. So it's just like disability can happen to anybody. So I definitely think the whole, oh, well, you're not old enough to have a disability. It's like, well, that's again, I think that's a huge myth as well. It's just because like disability can be for anybody. It doesn't matter who or what you are, race, color, sexual identification. You know what I mean? Just it can
Right.
be for
Right.
everybody.
Right. The one thing I always think of is, we say disability, but that makes it sound like the whole person's like gone to heck.
Right.
and,
Yeah.
and the part is only like one minor part and one
Hmm.
small part of what we are as humans. Even if you're totally blind, there's still
Hmm.
all the rest of your being left
Hmm.
there.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of nuances in the language, and definitely I've learned that. I'm not like a trained advocate or anything. I didn't go to college for communications, so I learned just as much as my listeners do when I do my podcast. It's like I've learned a lot, and I continue to learn a lot, and I think that's what I've liked the most about becoming an advocate is. I only have the perspective of me losing my vision. I don't understand what it is for someone to be, motor neural or, cognitive or auditory. I can never have those lived experiences. So for me, I don't have the understanding of what it's like to go through that. So I love doing my podcast and transforming it into just a disability. So, I started it just to talk about vision loss. But then I thought, well, I feel that's a little bit limiting. I feel like I should open
Right.
myself up to talk to the entire community because I feel not only is it better for my podcast, but I think it's better for me as a person in understanding all the nuances in the language because it's, there's so much that goes into being an advocate in the communities that you talk to and trying to understand.
Sure. And it's being empathetic. I got an email today I did a podcast last week. I'm doing your podcast next week, but I did a podcast last week, and one of the listeners wrote in to the gentleman and said, "Well, I know Renee. She was on one of our shows. I was on one of her shows a long time ago, and I thought that she was like borderline." Visually impaired and he goes, but I was surprised she said she was sighted. I'm like, I am. I didn't lie about that. I am.
Right.
But I took it as a compliment because maybe when he met me, he thought I was empathetic towards him and that I had the basic understanding, and maybe he thought the only way I could have that understanding through was through being blind. But
Right.
but it's you, Chad, and lots of other people throughout these 21 years who have taught me. I'm not I never took any disability classes in college or how to talk to people who don't see or anything like that. You really learn a lot from one another.
Yeah, and that's what I love the most about my podcast because if I can learn something as well as my audience, then not only have I done a job for my audience, but I've done something for myself. I can take something and then make myself a better person, and just at least understand other people better as well. Because again, I only have one, perspective, and when you think about it, it's just one tiny piece in this, larger picture.
Right. Well, it's funny. That's one of the reasons that I don't really find out about the people I'm going to interview until I actually get them on here, because I want to learn right along with the listener. It just makes it a lot more fun that way. And I have to listen. If I'm sitting looking at a piece of paper about that person, I don't really hear what they're saying. So, so you've got the chicken noodle recipe today. You're the cooking without looking recipe of the day. Tell us a little bit about your recipe.
So I can't take credit for my recipe. Not at all. It's my dad's recipe. So I'm I'm a big foodie. I always have been. Like I have no self-control when it comes to certain foods, like salty stuff, like chips and popcorn. Like don't even like give me that. I'll eat the entire bag in a single sitting. It's just like I like food is definitely one of my kryptonites. So I definitely work out as much as I can because I know I'm a big foodie. But yeah, I mean, I feel like we all say my mom and dad are the best cooks in the world, but I think really there's nothing better than a good home cooked meal from a mom or a dad. My mom and my dad are amazing cooks, and yeah, so the recipe is my dad's. So this is something that he always made for us growing up when we were sick. So of course we've had canned soup, but I mean, like you said, like there's something so much better about making it homemade and eating it homemade. It's just so much more like fulfilling, more flavorful. So yeah, this is his recipe. And he
It's
actually
that canned stuff.
he actually just made it this week because my sister had a bit of a cold, and anytime she gets sick, especially my sister, the first thing she asks for is, "Dad, can you make me some chicken noodle soup?" Of course, if he's
Aw.
actually here in the area. So he's visiting right now, so of course she hasn't been feeling well. So the second he gets in from his big conference that he was doing, she's like, "Dad, can you pick up stuff to do chicken noodle soup?" And of course, being the great dad that he is, he got some stuff for chicken noodle soup, and we all sat down and ate it last night. And I'm going to be having it again today for lunch because I think it's even better the day after.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, walk us through the ingredients.
So I don't have it in front of me
Oh.
because I can't remember off the top of my head.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Um,
I remember I saw red onions and I'm like, yes, he's speaking my language because it makes it look pretty.
Yeah, he does red onions. He does celery, like celery salt. And then he actually uses a rotisserie chicken. So he has to debone it. So, he goes and he buys like a big, thing of like, like a chicken from like, Publix. And then, he literally will just debone it. And then, I ended up getting a little bit of a bone in mine the other day. So I had to take that out. But he does that, and then there's a bunch of other ingredients that I can't think of right now. But
Well, everyone can go to our website, www.cookingwithoutlookingtv.wordpress.com. And if that's too long to remember, just Google Cooking Without Looking and go to our website. That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I did not have a memory when it comes to recipes. I just read it and then do it.
Oh, yeah.
But he puts it in a slow cooker, and I think that's really what makes a difference into the flavor. I really think it really has a lot of time to have like all of the seasonings and ingredients to sit and simmer, and he does it for quite a good amount of time. And it just has a lot of time to sit in all the broth and the juices, all those ingredients get to like kind of mingle together.
Oh, yeah.
And I really think that's kind of probably what really makes it as good as it is. And for us, my dad and my sister are gluten-free, so we use like rice noodles a lot of the times because of course they can't do usual wheat needles wheat noodles. That would be even worse. That would be even worse. But yeah, they do that. And what's funny about the noodles sometimes is like when they've had enough time like to sit in the juices, they kind of soak it up and kind of get bigger than they were when you ate them the first day. So it's almost like, oh, if I wait, I'm gonna have more soup because the noodles are going to soak up all the juices and just get large.
You get these gigantic noodles
Yeah,
taking over the world.
yeah, like yakisoba, like if you're familiar with that, like the Japanese thick noodles. But yeah, I always I always enjoy eating that. And he has a bunch of other recipes, like he's such a good cook. I always tell him like if he ever retires and wants to keep doing something to keep himself busy, he should open his own restaurant because he could definitely make some money off of the food he makes.
Oh my God. And you know what? You can always change it up too. I love mushrooms. I put mushrooms in everything, except for my ice cream. But just throwing things in there. And the good part about it is, like we were talking a little bit earlier with people complaining about their food bill or anything, you just buy this big 10-pound bag of chicken and you can make all sorts of things, and chicken soup can be one of them.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, that's the problem with, especially with the US is, we definitely take advantage of having a large amount of food when we buy it, but then a lot of times we don't really use everything. And definitely, I grew up in a family where it's just like, okay, we're going to use every bit of the chicken if we can. If we have leftover, we'll do something else with the chicken. Who knows what, maybe we have enough leftover, some like maybe like for an Alfredo, or maybe we can, just do like a
Chicken
Parmesan
salad.
or or a chicken salad. It's just like, it's like, why just throw the rest away when we could do something else? Because I mean, like especially Publix, their chicken's so good. So like, why would you want to waste that good chicken?
Oh, I know the rotisserie chicken's amazing. What city are you in?
So I'm in Florida, so I live out in the Tampa Bay area.
Oh,
and,
okay.
and what's funny is that Boar's Head actually has like a corporate office down here. So like I've actually got to visit like their actual headquarters and see like their production and everything.
Mhm.
And it's so good because like legit, I'm such a big fan of Publix meats, especially their deli stuff.
Oh
So
yeah,
like their chickens, like their wings, like whether it's like their tenders or like
they're flavored very well.
oh, it's so good. Like I honestly joke around and say like why go to a Subway or like a Lenny's when you can just go to Publix Deli?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, they've got everything there.
Mhm,
And the I guess the best part is, like I say, the seasoning is
mhm,
wonderful. And that rotisserie chicken of theirs into a chicken soup,
mhm.
that's all you need almost.
Yeah, they have a lemon pepper rotisserie one that I
Oh yeah.
love. I love lemon pepper, anything.
Oh, I know, I know. I just um I'm originally from Wisconsin. I lived in Miami up until like 2 years ago when the pandemic started.
Mhm,
But I was introduced to lemon pepper only a couple of years ago, and
mhm.
that's my crack. I mean, that
Same here. Like I've always heard of like, lemon pepper wings, and I love a good chicken wing, but I was always just like, I was more into like the wet sauces, so
Mhm.
like teriyakis, or like like kind of like the ginger soy base. But then I just kept hearing like, oh, you should try like lemon pepper dry rub, and I'm just like, oh no, that kind of sounds weird, lemon pepper. And then I had it, and like you said, like maybe about 3 years ago, before the pandemic hit, I had my first lemon pepper chicken, and I was like, oh my god, why have
You-
I not had this before? It's just
Why
so
haven't I
good.
heard of it?
Yeah, and like you, it's like my crack now. It's like, oh my god, like I remember the first time I had like lemon pepper chicken, I was like, this is so good, and it was so good, and I wanted even more. That I legit ordered like a bunch of lemon pepper seasoning and chicken just to make it on my own,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
I
yeah,
just kept
yeah.
wanting to eat it.
Oh, I know, most definitely. Oh man. Well, Chad, thank you so much for being a part of my podcast, and I can't wait to talk to you next week on your podcast.
Oh my god, yeah, it's gonna be fun. Hopefully you won't get tired of talking about food and cooking, because definitely that's gonna be a big part of it.
No, 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 no. I never get tired of that. I'm like one of those weirdos in the middle of the night thinking, okay, let's see, what do I have in my refrigerator? And I start putting things together in my head. So I wake up cooking something all the time. I just love it. But
Mhm.
hey, if our fans want to reach out to you, how do they reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, you can find the podcast on Anchor, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Hindsight is 20/200. But if you would like to reach out to me, you can email me at cmbouton. So it's my first initial, middle initial. So C as in Chad, M as in Michael, and then the last name Bouton. So CMBOUTON at yahoo.com. But you can also follow me on Twitter. So at 2200 hindsight, at 20200 hindsight. Please just give me a follow. You can reach out, anyway. I am really good about talking to people. They have questions, or just, maybe even would like to come on the podcast if they're interested in that and have a story. Just definitely interact with me. I love to interact with people. So I'm never shy with answering a question.
You don't seem like a shy guy.
Well, my mom would tell you that definitely growing up I was, but I've definitely come out of my shell now that I'm an adult.
And you've thrown away the shell.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, thank you again, Chad. And if you want to reach us, we're at www.cookingwithoutlookingtv.wordpress.com. Again, thank you, Chad, for helping us change the way we see blindness. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Enjoy the rest of your week.
You too.